Hello, River here. I just got back from Gencon, where I got top four at the regional, and well, I'm stuck at home, sick with COVID, so super bored. Thought I'd do a deck profile because a lot of people are asking me about my specific deck because it's not on air and it's not stat strike, so it's a little bit different. So I'll start by with the character and how I use the character card specifically, and go from there. So first, the enhance. Look at the top two cards of both players' decks. You may replace them in any order. This is actually obviously very strong on offense because you get to, you know, when you draw a card, you get to choose to draw an attack. That's very strong. I use it on defense a lot just to find the block zone, so I can go into my opponent's turn with like holding one less card in hand. Like I might go on my opponent's turn and be like, I probably need two high blocks for this turn. But I have passing the torch and I have destined ready, and I can, which that's essentially lets me look through three cards to find a high block. So like pass the torch, draw a random one, then use the Jiro enhance. If I didn't draw one, then use the Jiro enhance to put a high block on top of my deck and destined to find it. So we just get lucky right off passing, but it basically lets you look through three cards with that combo, which I try to have ready as often as possible. Um, and on offense, kind of similar stuff, but I'm just basically looking for attacks, looking to get good checks. Um, Sometimes if I'm really worried about defense on my offensive turn, or when I'm attacking, I might use the enhance to like find the right block. I have done that occasionally, but usually I'm just looking to get attacks off the top of my deck to either play them this turn or next turn, or just to not check bad, so I can try to close out a game. So she has her two responses. Her first response is after you play a charge attack, it gets +1 damage for each card in your card pool. Second response is after you play a weapon attack, it gets +1 speed for each card in your card pool. So Jiro obviously she likes to play long strings. She doesn't need to clear her card pool as much as other characters because she gets more value out of her attacks. The obviously the more full her card pool is. So she's just a stat monster, and I combine that with the good symbol to draw a bunch of cards, just to see a lot of attacks. Plus, helps me play a longer string. It plays a lot different than the air symbol Giros do, which usually do like one big home run comet or a big throw at the end of a string, things like that. I do have Cannon Blast in my deck, so it can play similar to that, which it's a little harder to play a Cannon Blast at the end of a string than it is to play a home run comet at the end of a string, but the deck's about flexibility. The good symbol is highly flexible. It's a lot more defensive than the air symbol, um, largely because of block zones, and block modifiers. My deck has, I believe, 10 +1 high blocks in the deck. There's just a lot of +1 block modifiers in general. And I could actually add more if I felt I needed them, because the symbol has them readily available. And just drawing cards to see the cards I need to block, or to be able to play, two foundations, four attacks, and still have three cards in hand. The good symbol does that very well. Within an aggro meta, don't want to play a completely aggro deck because I don't want to just lose going first. One thing the good symbol has over the air symbol is the ability to survive multiple turns going second against an aggro deck. Not every time, but sometimes. Definitely better than you can on the air symbol. So I think it's just a more balanced, a more flexible play style on the good symbol, which is how I played basically every game I've ever played. So I really appreciate that about that. This deck specifically, like the set one version was I had made to take down water decks. The set two version I had built specifically to take down life decks, and to be able to survive aggro turns from Froppy and from Tokoyami, basically. The idea is that I can survive two attack turns from those two characters easier than they can survive two attack turns from me. Uh, didn't work out quite like that because I did lose. I did get knocked out by a life Froppy, um, but that's kind of a whole other story. Um, didn't have a lot of practice with that matchup, to be honest. Not a lot of players like to play, at least that I play with, like to play the Life Roppy deck. So I didn't get a ton of practice. But anyways, I don't think that really changed anything. It's just a hard matchup for everyone, I think. Anyway, so that's how I use my character. That's why I play on the symbol. I'm going to jump right into my attacks. Um, Starting with 4 Unwavering Slash. This is more or less the cornerstone of the deck. As I get into the attacks, I'm just going to point out that this deck is built to win without any specific card, without any specific attack needing to be seen. I can see most combinations of attacks and find a way to make that into a kill turn. Mostly because they're all getting stats, but I'll kind of get into that more as I start revealing the attacks. Unwavering Slash is the highest utility piece. It also is a kill card. Um, so the first enhance, discard a card to build an asset. The assets are really powerful and really strong in this deck. Between Unwavering Slash and Earphone Jack, like I get to re-ready 2 cards. Like I play Unwavering Slash my first attack, I check a 3. I really don't care because I build an Earphone Jack and I can ready both of the foundations I committed to play it. It's like I checked a 5. Um, so the bottom enhance, if you have one or more asset ready, one foundation that has not been ready this turn, or combat phase, and draw a card. Um, really strong utility, readying foundations, drawing cards. Readying small and limber, readying passing the torch, really strong moves. Or if you had to commit a special sound to pass a check, pop in that, or a destined even, which is really good on defense, pop those back up. So you can defend through your opponent's turn. Just incredibly strong utility. It also is powerful too, and it's a weapon and it's a charge. I kill a lot of people with it, um, especially with Plus Ultra being a lot less common in the meta. I kill a lot of people with this card. It's also Plus Ultra Bait, which I'll kind of get to in a little bit when I show the card that I combo it with. But like I kill people with this. Like I killed someone on one of the provisionals with, you play as your third attack, 7 speed, 7 damage, plus ultra, 7 speed, 14 damage, powerful 2. Now we're looking like 16 damage. Mid attack, but like once you can calculate that they can't block a 7 speed attack, you can do some cool things with it. Um, I think I got like played as my third attack one time, used powerful on it, used quick creation to get a +2 damage, used small and limber self-sacrifice, like it ended up being like 13 damage or something like that. Um, just because the opponent had a weakness and I saw like how I could pump up all the damage in certain ways, and get one attack to go off, and that's all you needed. So that's the card. It's also a low block. Deck struggles slightly with low blocks, but not a lot. Um, I try not to block with it, obviously, but it's I believe, yeah, it's my only attack with a low block, so you just kind of have to sometimes. So then my next attack, another mid attack. This is my best leading attack. Unwavering Slash is probably my second best. But this is definitely the best leading attack in the deck. Echellium Maker, charge, punch, so it gets a damage from charge. EX2, I use that a lot. Stun 2, I use that a lot. The EX on this and the powerful on Unwavering Slash, I get a lot of kills out of both of these first 2 cards. Um, just using their momentum outs to make the numbers really bad for my opponent because you're already makes the numbers bad. The enhance to draw a card to build a foundation, print difficulty 0 for my discard pile. Really strong. The only 0 difficulty is it can't be fixed, but like I can cycle them pretty well because I have self-sacrifice. Like I can have the 0 if I don't have one on my discard pile. I can destroy it with self-sacrifice, put it back out, which is especially powerful if you had used it can't be fixed, flipped it. But yeah, either way, it's just card draw. I have 11 attacks in this deck that draw cards, which is how the deck functions basically. I just get to see so many cards that either I get to kill you or I get all the cards I need to defend against you. It's gonna happen one way or the other. Um, so that's Haymaker. It was a 3 for a long time, but I just wasn't seeing as many cards as I wanted, so I bumped back up to 4. Um, yeah, and just the five base damage makes it a really good first attack because my weakest, if I play this first, my weakest attack of the turn is going to be 6 damage. That's just a troublesome spot to be in for my opponent. Next, I'm going to show you Capturing Net. Uh, Capturing Net is my favorite attack in the game. I know it's not the best attack in the game, but it's my favorite. The utility on it is amazing. Like I can build in during my attack turn. I can build in. Usually, if I'm trying to kill someone, I aim for like a destined, so I can fix one of my checks, fix one more of my checks than I normally would get to fix. I build in a small number because it's a foundation that ready. It helps, just they both help extend my turn, help me do damage by either finding attacks or committing for speed and damage. Um, but the reason I really like this card Besides stun two, so I have eight attacks with stun two in a small deck. It's only a 52 card deck. Um, Largest so I can see the stun two as often as possible. Um, but basically, it handles breaker. This card, it handles breaker. It handles minute two and a lot of card pool stuffing. And it handles learning the standards very well. All defensive tools that without this card and just one other card in my deck that I'll get to, I would have a lot of struggles, and a lot of people would be able to delay my kill by like 1 or 2 turns versus a lot of decks. This card gets around that. Obviously, like sticky balls puts a foundation. If sticky balls across the table for me, I'll play an attack. A lot of times I'll just self sack anything, any foundation. If I check that is if I checked a three, if I checked an attack, if I checked a foundation, I'm fine. Like I'll play an attack and I'll just self sacrifice a foundation to put a foundation on top. That way, if they sticky balls, they put a foundation in my card pool. I play capturing that second, and then build it back down, and it's like nothing ever happened. Very cool. Learning this, someone plays breaker. I usually stack a 5 check. Oh, they play a breaker. Well, like I don't want to waste my 5 checks, so I play like a passing the torch or something. And then followed by capturing that. Um, and that way their breaker doesn't really affect me. It doesn't slow my turn down at all. It's exactly the same thing with learning the standards. This is a very cool utility card in general. It's also a weapon charge and a low attack, so it gets really fast, really strong. A lot of times, if I don't really have anything super great going on my attack turn, I'll just play a couple attacks, then like a sound waves and capturing that no is like a 7 low for 9 or whatever. Like that kills people by if they took some damage earlier in the turn. Um, like you don't even have to use the combo enhance. You try to as much as possible, but sometimes, especially if you got stun off early in the turn, sometimes you don't really need to. Like if you're kind of like 2 or 3 attacks in and playing foundation and capturing it has a really good chance to like commit your special to sound or something like that. You just want to play it almost less progressive. Just to make sure you don't open yourself up in a way that gives your opponent like an avenue to kill you. So that's that. I love that card. Can't get enough of the card. The next attack is Special Descent. I only played 3. I was a big proponent of this is where the 2 check. Um, you need it as a 4 of in every Jiro deck. I've been a proponent of that for a long time. I cut down to 3 um, in the past maybe month. Um, just because with this deck, I don't need to see anything specific anymore, and the difficulty is a lot higher than I'm used to playing the deck as far as the difficulty of the attacks. So it make checks are kind of harder. So having it like taking a 2 hurts the deck in its current form a lot worse than some of the previous forms. I don't need to play a lot of attacks to kill people with the current version of the deck because I have like higher damage attacks. I don't need to do like earlier versions, especially when I was playing like 6, 7, 8, sometimes like 9 attack strings. And sound waves would enable that, being like a lower cost, so maybe like stacking 6 checks on my deck, stuff like that. I don't need to do that anymore. I kill people 3, 4 attacks, 5 attacks, like usually the most. I think the longest attack string I had between both divisionals and like all my regional games was 6 attacks, which would be like the lowest kill turn on like other versions of the deck. Um, so that's special. That's sound waves. It's amazing. You stack whatever your kill attack is, and you put a 6 check behind it. I'm normally looking for Cannon Blast. Cannon Blast is amazing. It's the other weapon charge in the deck, so I have 10 attacks that are both weapon and charges. It just gets big. It gets silly big. Um, I think Jiro plays it better than anyone else because she gets to add speed onto it for freer than everyone else. And if you want to commit all the foundations for it, it's like basically an 8 diff for 7 high for 11. But with Jiro, if you play as for the attack, you get to add +4/+4 to that. So you get to like 11 high for 15, plus all the other ways I can add damage and stuff. Closes the game out really well. Um, Against the deck, I'm not too worried about like a turn 2, like just getting attacked back real hard. Sometimes I'll commit most of my stuff on turn if I see it on turn 2. Like I'll play like a couple like a stun attack and a wavering slash maybe for like earphone jack, and then commit mostly out playing a cannon blast, get like a free 12, 13 damage in, um, block 1 attack, and then kind of kill them on the next turn. But mostly you don't want to see it early because I don't want to lower my defense too much. That being said, against seven-handers, I killed several seven-handers this past week by playing the exact string was Back Alley Haymaker, Foundation, then Capturing Net, Stun 4, um, then Cannon Blast. One of these two hits, Cannon Blast is lethal unblockable because they stun 4. Um, Very, very good for killing seven-handers in that way, which is one reason I keep it at 2s. I've been advised by several people to maybe drop it down to 1 because it does suck to see early. It does suck to see 2 of them, but um, it does enable turn 2 kill. Like, there's a couple ways I can get turn 2 kills, but like that's the easiest, lowest. That's just kind of the easiest, lowest like hoops to jump through to get a turn 2 kill. My last attack is a 1 copy of Amplified Sound Blast. It's just another low attack. It's a flash. I just need another attack, and I want to be able to pivot my deck out of my sideboard into having more low attacks, into having more flash attacks against certain decks. Life, Water, and Eraserhead being those decks. So having to start with one in the main worked out really well. I also nice to every once in a while get the momentum ability. Um, so obviously it's a low for 4 charge flash, and when it's in the momentum, I can flip it. The max tracked weapon attack is massive difficulty. This enables my chains to go longer, obviously. And with Jiro, the longer the chain is, the more pain she's putting on you. Um, but yeah, there's more of these in the sideboard. This is just here is like I didn't want another cannon blast. Airstream driver, I'm very sour on. If I see it turn, yeah, Airstream driver just never really gets through. Because people are trying to block, hoping to block a cannon blast a lot of times, and like, or maybe, and then know I have high attacks. How it's like Airstream driver just gets blocked like 9 times out of 10, because they're trying to block something faster. So I had to take it out. Ricochet charge used to be in the slot for the extra stun, for the extra low block, but ultimately I decided that I wanted to free up slots on my sideboard. And this was so I took this out of my sideboard, put one in my main. So that said, we're going to move on to assets. 2 copies of Earphone Jack. Um, it's an amazing block, especially because you're going to tutor from your discard pile with Unwavering Slash. +1 high blocks, very awesome in the meta. The response gives a charge when I play a charge attack, it gets +1 speed. And the opponent discards the top of their decks. This card works so good with Jiro because you get to scout their deck. You get to know if they have a 3 or a 5 on top of their deck a lot of times. If they have a 3, you don't boost the speed because you want to leave the 3 on top of their deck. If they have a 5, you discard it. You give your attack +1 speed and get rid of their 5 on top of their deck. You make their checks worse for the turn. So people play against Jiro for multiple reasons. They just in general are going to check slightly worse than their other games, and that's one way that you play offense and defense is by just manipulating their checks in the long run of the turn. I also play 2 copies of Quick Creation. It's my only deadlock in the deck, but it's an amazing deadlock. Deadlock first enhance commit, double your weapons attack speed and damage. The cool thing about this is that you can start your turn without it on the board and tutor it in with a Unwavering Slash, and then surprise I have a deadlock enhance how fast how my opponent has to get rid of foundations really fast, or else I'm going to play attack that attack maybe Unwavering Slash would normally be a 7/7, it's a 14/14 before I do anything else. Like, that's super strong. That's just an example. Use on Capturing Net for roughly the same benefit. Um, but generally, games don't last long enough to go to deadlock both in the current meta and with this deck, which is I would call it an aggro deck. It's just not a turn 2 aggro deck. The main purpose of this is a mid block with Breaker, which is good against Kirishima 2, and commit at the top card of your card pool, at the top card of your discard pile into your card pool. This attack gets +2 damage or -2 damage. It's okay on defense. Mostly I want to block a couple things on defense and then like swing back hard. It doesn't do that much on defense, but sometimes. But mostly it's, I play, if I want to play like a Capturing Net in my string, so I'll play like one of these first. I'll commit this to put a foundation from my discard pile on top of my deck, into my card pool, and then play Capturing Net after it, because I probably have stacked the check to be a 5. and I don't want to waste a 5 check playing a foundation, right? So quick creation helps with that. It helps with a lot of things. A lot of times, at the end of my strings, I'll use like sound wave and play like a caption as like my fifth or sixth attack because I pulled it out of my discard pile with sound waves. Throw 2 damage on it with this to add a foundation to my card pool and build the foundation down so now I have one more foundation to help me block. There's a lot of cool things. Um, yeah, it's just very, very versatile, especially when I have a capturing net in hand. And it's also just not bad. Like it got me a win once just by making my Unwavering Slash 2 damage higher, right? So it's just a really, really flexible card. Actions I have Go for the Win. I'm gonna put this here. I have 1 copy of Go for the Win. Um, Form Destroy a Foundation. If your rival has more foundations than you, build the top 2 cards of your deck. Remove this card. Um, I It's actually kind of hard to have less foundations in my opponent between Haymaker and but just between Haymaker and capturing net. A lot of times it can be a little bit tricky. So like sometimes I can't self-sacrifice my foundations quick enough, but it's mostly here for the low block. And it's mostly here to work around Breaker 2, to eat up a Breaker 2, and it's here to eat up learning the standards. Um, Responds after rival passes on playing and enhance your attack its +2 speed. I've used that once. It won the game that time, um, which is fine. Which is fine. Obviously, you like winning games, but it's not really here for anything besides utility and to have a +1 low block because I like to have +1 blocks on my deck. I have 1 copy of Plus Ultra, which won me 2 games, both of which I was probably already going to win. I did get to do a 26 damage cannon blast, which was cool because of Plus Ultra. Um, but it's here for Ochako 2, and because um, like I have tech for Froppy on my sideboard. This is okay against Froppy because it's like instead of blocking 2 attacks on her turn, I get to block 2 and then half block a third, so it has an advantage in that way. Um, it's just a generally good card, but like I'm very much considering taking it out of the deck for capture evildoers, or maybe to the main board ultra compressed weights because when a waving slash is in your deck, ultra compressed weights is actually a decent main board, in my opinion. Gonna move on to foundations. This is most of my speed hate. I always say that having a deck full of +1 block modifiers is the real speed hate I have, but this is just a great card, especially with decks that have a lot of card draw. Being able to have the response when you check it, see the top card of your deck, be like, oh, I don't want to draw a card now because it's not going to be an attacker. It's not going to be that block modifier. Just everyone's want to get some info that can be very crucial to the game off of it. But also when an opponent plays attack, response commits -3 speed, super strong. Um, yeah, kind of almost helped me survive against Froppy. I was using it that so that she had to boost her attacks back up to speed by flipping her and encouraging training partners. Um, but it's because I didn't want to see them on when I was trying to attack, basically. Um, but yeah, I don't know, it's just general speed hit, just generally very good. I only have 2 copies of Passing the Torch right now, which is a mistake, I think. I'll just show you the next. So the other 2 diff is Advice for Winners. Um, During my testing, um, checking was more detrimental than not seeing the cards I want. At the regional, it was exactly the opposite. So I would probably take that out for one of these. The block modifiers are set up so that it wouldn't hurt my block mod spread. Because there were a couple games where like I didn't see it passing the torch, and I only saw like 1 destined for the whole game, and the deck needs to see either a passing the torch, or it needs to see 2 destined, or maybe if I see like only attacks that draw, that might be okay. But like, or it needs to be a really fast game. So there's some decks where I was kind of, or some games where I was kind of not seeing what I needed from my deck. So I think I might change this to a third to help that problem out a little bit. Um, so I go to the spam, for it can't be fixed. It's my 0 difficulty. It's a +1 high block. It's stun hate. It's stun hate that my deck can cycle by destroying it and rebuilding it with back alley haymakers. So I don't have any resistance in this deck because I found that versus other stun decks that are on good or earth that can run resistance and it can't be fixed. I found that I found that, like my stun hate was generally working a little bit better than theirs, even though they had more options, just because my deck was smaller, so I was seeing this card more often. And because I can cycle it every once in a while and just get more on the board than they can get. Because this is the best stun hit card in the game, and it's a zero diff, which is kind of weird. Um, but I accept it. Destined for Destined. Destined is amazing. Um, Flip, name a card type, then reveal the top card of your deck. If the card matches the type, put it in my hand. One doesn't count as draw, so doesn't trigger desperate times. It's kind of cool. Um, you use this to fix, you flip it, you say attack, and then if it's a foundation, cool, you have a good check. If it's an attack, you get a three check off of your deck. It's um, mostly used for fixing my checks every once in a while. If I don't have passing or I don't have like a Wavering Slash or something, it's used for drawing an attack off of my deck. It's very flexible. Um, and yeah, everyone kind of knows that card. It's good. It's been in every deck it can be in for since the game came out. Three small number. Um, I would have four, but my deck does need to check well. So the four check kind of sucks. Even though the ones in play help with the check. Um, it's also really cool with Unwavering Slash because you play Unwavering Slash first, you check a five. You can either pass on the torch or small number, depending on what you need at the time. And then ready it, so it's just free damage and speed or free card draw. Yeah, then it has the once per turn response after a card leaves your stage during the combat phase. Ready this foundation, playable while committed. Um, so yeah, you self-sacrifice, you just go for the win to trigger it. The other one is if I have earphone jack and I build in an earphone jack with unwavering slash, the first I have to choose one of them to be destroyed. When that happens, I get to ready all my small numbers. Um, I would consider a fourth one, but it's not that crucial. Even though it's just really good to see. It's really good when you see two of them, though. But I also don't have a ton of foundation destruction. I don't have a ton of ways to trigger it. I can trigger it pretty reliably, but I'd like to be able to trigger it a little more reliably before I start adding in fourth copy. I'm going to try to slide stuff a little bit because I have more foundations to put out here. I'm going to do this. You can see that's good enough. Cool. All right. Over here. All right. So I have for self-sacrifice for the +1 low block for triggering a small number, for adding damage every once in a while for destroying foundations on defense to reduce damage, which I can do because the deck does not need a lot of foundations to play a long string. Six is usually great. Like if I have more, that's great. But like I don't worry about like if I have six foundations or if I have eight foundations, I don't mind destroying one or two of them. I can still probably play my attack turn to 100% efficiency, even missing the foundations. The next I have Bonds of Friendship. Four of those. It's here for the six check and the +1 high block modifier. It's also the -3 damage is really good against some decks. With Kirishima being around, it's good against Texas Smash. If I don't want to block, if the next attack's going to be even stronger than Texas Smash, sadly, I just flip it, give it -3 damage, eat four. That sucks, but I didn't put a card in my card pool to make sure I can block the Airstream Driver or Texas Smash or whatever else is coming next. But yeah, so it's cool. There's a decent amount of Fury attacks in the current meta. Not as many as there used to be, I don't think, but that's all right. It's there for the six check. One copy of High Value Target. Um, I'll just show this because it kind of goes together. One copy of Note Taking. Just some more low blocks. Note Taking is for offense. High Value Targets for defense. Um, High Value, I would run two copies of High Value Target, but the one copy of Note Taking comes in handy so much. When I was playing my top cut matches against the Life Momo decks, it was basically I flip my foundation, she destroys a foundation, um, to counter the speed to survive the turn, which is super strong. Um, And then obviously high value targets is better for defense. You could switch that up for that. You could actually have two of these. I probably wouldn't unless you added like one or two ricochet charges. Yeah, so that's that. That's the last two foundations. Um, I get into the sideboard a little bit. So the sideboard I have, um, I'll just slide up a little more so I can put my sideboard in a row. All right. So I have one copy of Amplified Sound Blast. I really want to get that up to two. It was two for the longest time for a total of three with on the main board. Um, I have some ideas on how to make that happen, but I have some other crucial stuff in the sideboard, and everything kind of came in handy. Um, One reason, so I bring this in a lot of times. I'll bring it in to take out a back alley haymaker if I'm against somebody with that's running like a lot of confused. Just because I have a lot of stun on the deck, but not all of it actually has a stun keyword except haymaker. So like if you're running three of these, it really reduces the likelihood of that confused removing stun two from something. Um, Actually, it's very in a very significant way. Um, some decks have no trouble blocking Cannon Blast, so I would want to bring in maybe leave one Cannon Blast in case they don't have their answers on board, so I can find it with the Sound Waves. We'll have to bring this in for that. And there are some decks where I normally didn't do this during testing or anything, but I really wanted to bring in extra attacks versus Momo basically, and I probably should have done that versus Froppy as well. So having just even though I only have one extra attack on the sideboard, having one is helpful. Having two would be even better. Um, I wouldn't necessarily bring in two extra attacks, but just being able to switch to a heavier flash package for some decks is very strong. Next is two. You're so obvious. The reason the cards in the deck is obvious. Reduce speed or damage on like Frog Lash and Cannon Blast, which are both popular. Um, Fourth Kind, it's an answer to Fourth Kind as well. You can't always block stupid fast kicks. Apparently, Fourth Kind kicks well. I don't know. Um, but uh, but yeah, this is just a really good answer to a lot of problems that it fixes problems of the low investment, right? By having to like reduce all the speed and like buy, and commit on my foundation. Like it's like, well, I'll just take some damage and then block the next one, hopefully. Three capture evildoers. I really want to get this up to four because I do think Air Jiro is a bad matchup for me. And there are some home run comment decks running around. I had one in the plus ultra spot, which I might revert back to on that. But yeah, you bring it in versus Air Jiro, kind of brings the matchup back to even. I think if I can mess with her home run comet and her sound waves while enabling my own sound waves. It's also got the plus one mid, which is really good against some of these decks like Kirishima 2. I ran into two. I BBB both of them. I brought these in, even though I don't really care about his momentum too much. Just having a one mid breaker, having a couple of one mid breakers, and then having a couple plus two mid breakers slows the deck down a lot, which is really helpful. So let's just bring it in for the block zone. Three alternate breast weights. I ran two for a while. Um, got completely wrecked by Ryan Field at the provisional on Thursday. Um, the game I didn't see it. It was a complete blowout. So I put a third one in because between mulliganing for it and unwavering slash, it's pretty easy. By the way, just a side note, be careful with mulliganing with this deck. There's a lot of non-foundations, so don't dig for anything too hard. But anyways, between mulliganing for it and unwavering slash, I need to get it out by turn two at the latest to slow that deck down, and hopefully be able to crack back. The deck cracks back very well on failed kill turns of opponent just because like it stuns whatever they have left. Yeah, so I think. Well, let me show you my last sideboard card. Is Go for the Win. I have one more Go for the Win to bring in against heavy breaker decks, to bring in against learning the standard, to bring in because I only have 15 low blocks, and so it's a +1 low. So it has a lot of reasons to bring it in for one card. So even though none of those reasons are like amazing, since it can fill several roles, it's like using one spot in my sideboard for like three purposes, which is really really high value. So that's the side. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was maybe like changes I would maybe make to the deck. Um, the first change is I considered making the deck a little what is that word here? The first change is I considered making the deck a little bit bigger. Um, just because I wanted there was something I wanted to see a little more often that I couldn't make cuts to do. Um, so here's I would add 5 or 6 cards if I were to make my deck bigger. It would be Ricochet Charge because I want a low block and I want stun. It would be Sound Waves because I want it could be Sound Blast, but I would choose Sound Waves. Um, the attacks I want them to either be stun or flash. Um, basically, when I did make the deck bigger, I had trouble seeing Cannon Blast as often as I wanted to, or just seeing as much card draw as I wanted to. So Sound Waves helps with both of those things. Um, having the 2 check is a little funky, but whatever. The other card I would add is Earphone Jack. Having the 4 assets in the 52 card deck with the 4 waving slashes is usually fine. It doesn't hurt. It almost never actually hurts me too bad. There were 2 games where it was hurting me because I wasn't able to play my waving slashes. Um, so going up to 5, especially if I made the deck bigger, then I would see them waving slash and assets together less. So I definitely would want the 5th one. I'm definitely considering doing the 5th one just in the 52 card version as well. And then I would definitely have passing the torch if my deck got any bigger because already questionable if I'm not seeing it enough. So I definitely had a 3rd one just for that reason. And the last would be I would add one of these 2, not both. Um, I actually would have to spend a lot of time thinking about it because having a second note taking would be really nice because note taking and Ricochet Charge go really well together. Ricochet Charge is really nasty when it has speed on it. When you pump that up to 4 speed, the decision to block is really annoying from your opponent's perspective. So having two ways to do that, Earphone Jack doesn't really 1 speed doesn't really make that decision hard. 2 to 3 bonus speed does. And high value target does for better defense. So it's offense versus defense. Um, Note taking plus EX on Haymaker is kind of very strong. If the opponent's at like 8 life or something, you can just one Haymaker at 10 speed will do it. And then I would maybe just add these or maybe add a 6th card. The 6th card would be Recovery Girl's Kiss. I ran 1 copy of Recovery Girl's Kiss for a long time, and it was very strong. And was like, sorry about that. So I ran one for a long time because just for back alley Haymaker. Not cycle like some games I cycled and like gain 3 life off it, which is kind of fun. Um, Not particularly strong, but kind of fun. But just there are some times where like you play back alley Haymaker, your Jiro enhance. Oh, 2 foundations on top of my deck. I really don't want to draw any of those. Let me build in a 0 diff. Oh, there's no 0 diffs. Just the 1 extra copy, just bumping my 0 diffs up by 25% is what that does, and it makes it very, very, very much more unlikely that I'm not going to find something to build with Haymaker. It was largely impactful. Um, in fact, I believe I took it out for Advice for Winners because Advice for Winners fixes my checks in actually kind of a similar way. But this would be I would add these 5 or maybe 5 and 6. So that's what I would add host to make the deck bigger, which I am very, very, very strongly considering. Um, Changes I would make right now without like any further testing based on the meta I saw would probably be I would take out Plus Ultra for ultra compressed weights. Just to have one of my Froppy answers in the main board, and I think this is a better answer for Froppy, and it's like generally very useful. For if I'm attacking and I know my opponent's like not going to get their ready, they're passing the torch on their turn. Um, it helps my defense, right? So I can maybe go a little harder. And then the other change I would make would be wherever that passing the torch just went. I would take out Advice for Winners for passing the torch. Obviously, checking it's a little more dangerous, but it is what it is. I'm also adding another fourth diff to values advice for winners because you're not changing your three into a five as often. So those are the two changes I would make right away. Um, it would free up this, putting this in the main would free up a slot in my sideboard for a second amplified sound blast, which would have come in handy several times. Um, or I might go up to like the 57, 58 card version. But yeah, when playing with this deck, after lots of testing, I'm sitting here at 52 cards. I don't want more than 6 of them in the main board to be non-foundation, non-attacks. Some decks can, so like with my assets and actions, right? Some decks can get away with more, like Tokiyami and stuff. This deck really can't because sometimes you need, well, one for like turn one builds, which building assets on turn one isn't the worst. But you need to have some in your hand for capturing that, or for discarding with quick creation. You put in then you discard from your hand, quick creation into play, play capturing that or something like that. But in general, like having foundation in hand is pretty important for your offense, which is kind of weird sometimes. So I don't think you can go too low on those. So 6 non-attacks, non-attack, non-foundations in the main board is like the limit. Um, and then after siding, I might go to 7, um, like between assets and actions, and that's fine. Because it's not going to be a consistent problem. You take a little more risks, but you're adding in like very specific counters to your opponent, so like that's worth the risk sometimes. One thing that is interesting, so I when I'm mulliganing, I'm looking for assets. I'm looking for foundations first. I'm looking for special the sound, card draw. I'm looking for I'm also looking for sound waves and assets because either to review my assets so I can find one later, so when Wavering Slash is alive from the beginning, um, or because they're good blocks, a breaker or a +1 high. Um, sound waves on look so I don't check it too. Sound waves is great. It's actually good on turn one with the momentum just to be like a 4 high for 5, draw a card, flash, really good. +1 mid, block, draw a card, super good on defense too. So I like to see them early, just because they're low difficulty for blocking and for attacking with when your foundations aren't too super set up yet, and you're not checking it too when you're trying to build early. You're significantly less likely to check it too when you're trying to build. With that said, the reason I kind of got into that is if I'm going second, I will sometimes um, side down to 3 assets. Because you have a lot more checks and a lot more time to see an asset before you have the opportunity to play attacks. And the idea is you want to see it before you play on Wavering Slash, right? Um, so if I'm putting in some really powerful counter stuff, I'll do that. I'll do that pretty regularly. Actually, I did that a lot. And the other thing about siding is I only sided in You're So Obvious going second, um, the whole week, which isn't always something I did, but it worked out really well for me. Because most of the decks I played against, I would want this card against. I can beat by aggressing hard. When I'm going first, at least, where I don't have to buy time to aggress. So like the Momo decks, or like it's like let's say okay, it's more like aggressing hard. I want to aggress, right? So I don't want to take out like a pass in the torch, which lets me see more cards. I don't want to take out um it's just anything that's kind of helping me on offense to put these in. Might take a highlight target, but also I don't want to check bad if I'm trying to aggress hard, right? So that's another reason to put these in. I don't want to add 4 checks to my deck if I'm trying to like end things quicker. Um, yeah, there was more on that, but it kind of escaping me. When I side these in or side in compressed weights, um, I'd be mindful of how many 4 checks. Like if I'm siding in 2 or more 4 checks, I'm siding out one at least one 4 check. Which the current version of the deck would just be small number, but I would take out this instead potentially. Just to kind of keep it from like making my 4 checks heavy in the deck, and especially in a deck that needs to check at least decently. So that's kind of it. Just how the deck functions.